Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to be checking out the brand new update for SFO Grimhammer. This releases on the 24th of January, so this coming Friday. I had a little bit of early access because obviously, you know, Vendris likes to do the promotion for the mod and we are quite good friends. The update doesn't have a big name or anything, as this is more of a focus on just fixing up the stuff for the Ogre Kingdoms, Khorne and the Greenskins, but there's also an update for the vampire counts. I want to talk about that. Remember, as per usual, this is an early access build, so things might change by the time that you see it live, and SFO Grimhammer has also done some big changes for the vampires over the years, so you will notice some stuff like new units, new mechanics, but they're not really new because they've been in SFO for quite some time now. But let's talk about the changes, because there's quite a lot that has been changed here. The vampire counts now have access to Rites, which is a mechanic from Warhammer 2. The last two, Assemblage of Necromancers and Betrayal Revealed, are for every single faction. However, the first two are different depending on the faction that you start with. So here you can see Manfred, you've got True Knight, Blood Moon. There's different ones if you decide to play as Ghost, as Kemler, and naturally the loving couple of Vlad and Isabella share the same unique rights because obviously it's just like a Lord and Hero version there. But yeah, they're pretty cool, and this also gives you a little bit of a push there. It does cost blood kisses, so keep that in mind, but in the end of it, you know, you actually got a use for blood kisses, a mechanic that you're going to be picking up a lot of. That's a currency that just appears constantly, and after a certain point, there's no use for them in vanilla. So it's good to see a bit of a push there. You will notice that these are reusable, but in the first time that you use them, some of them have a becomes permanent after first use situation, which is pretty damn cool. It also means that you're going to get some extra faction bonuses there to keep in line with the power creep of Warhammer 3. Overall, they're quite nice, and it does give you a reason to play as all the different factions. Yes, even Ghost. Don't worry about the Night Court Supremacy stuff. We'll be talking about that in just a second. It's a new currency and a new mechanic that's going to jump in. But the main thing here is that you've got access to quite a lot to play around with. There's something to take note of, however, that once you start using these rights, they will become more expensive after use. So in general, what you're going to want to do is pick up some characters to have as assassins and just keep generating blood kisses, essentially, if you want to keep using the rights. And in most cases, you will start having those characters up and running anyway, because you want to pick up the Bloodlines, with the Bloodlines having been reworked, which we'll talk about in just a bit. Blood kisses are going to be a much more valuable resource overall. I think it does make it a little bit more interesting for a campaign, as in most cases, back then, after you unlocked all the Bloodlines, done. Alright, let's talk about Knight's Court Supremacy. So this is a brand new resource which acts as a secondary sort of mechanic, very similar to that of, say, Epidemius in a sense. So you can go into the positives, you can go in 0, and you can go into the negatives. You can get some pretty powerful bonuses. You can stay in the generic 0, which you still get some bonuses from that. Or if you're going to -1, well, that's where some problems start coming in. Now, you can pick up Knight's Court Supremacy from events and rights. The events will pop up naturally as you play for your campaign. There's quite a lot of events that have been added in. I'm going to let you discover those in your own time. It's not that long until you're able to play it. Friday is coming up. But yeah, these will give you some bonuses. It will give you some options there. If you want to actually lose it, but get some character experience faction-wide, for example, or if you want to get some more, but then you might have some issues with growth, there is elements of choice there, which is going to make your campaign a lot more interesting. The update so far has been pretty good. I've been very much enjoying that, and there's more to it. It's not just this. So we can talk about the fact that the Bloodlines have been changed around quite a bit too. Bloodlines are now going to be giving different bonuses. There's units attached to that. We'll talk about those units in just a small while, but the bonuses are better. You even get some faction-wide bonuses for all characters, for example. The new units are pretty damn good too. This is going to make each of the Bloodlines feel a little bit better, because they are kind of there just for the sake of having like a unique looking lord, barring the Necrarch, which in in vanilla, I mean, just looks like a reskin Necromancer more than anything else. But the bonuses are definitely a lot better. The Von Carsteins have lost the handgunners, by the way, but your crossbowmen are so much better now. Overall, yeah, the update there is going to make these have a bit more of an element of choice. The Bloodlines have been changed a little bit too, but we'll talk about that in just a second. The new units are pretty damn fun. You've got access to a little bit more variety. Each Bloodline now gives you a new type of unit, and these are not recruited instantly anymore like a Regiment of Renown, but rather you will need a building, which is, well, your main settlement building. You just keep building it up, and you'll have access to all these brand new units as you start able to unlock them, which is pretty cool. The idea is more theming, some units which are just tied to the style of the specific bloodline. It's a nice thing that Venrus has done. Now that's not just it, or else that would be kind of boring now, wouldn't it? You do get all the good bonuses that you can see over here, and I feel like a lot of people are going to like that. But further to that, and I'm just going to show one example, these special vampires for the bloodlines will not start with their own trait. Instead, you will pick a specific trait, which I think is kind of cool. The idea here, and I'm just going to be showing two little showcases, it's not a big one. The idea here is honestly just to stylize your lord as you want it to. If you want a specific trait to give some ward save to your army when laying siege, or maybe you want your castellan to focus on something else. You want your vampire lord of Sylvania being able to focus on bloodlines instead, or maybe even some monsters. The element of choice is there, which is something that you kind of get in vanilla with the Warriors of Chaos when you decide, okay, I'm going to turn this guy into a Chaos Lord of Khorne, for example, or a Chaos Lord of Nurgle. Obviously, it's not exactly the same because it's focusing on a specific bloodline, but then being able to tailor your character is going to be much, much better for a lot of people who like specific loadouts. Obviously, do keep in mind that there's a bunch of skill reworks, and there's a lot of units that have been added in over the years to SFO Grimhammer, so you do have quite a lot to play around with, which adds to the flavor of the vampires. Nothing too drastically different. This is one of these mods that focuses on being as lore-friendly as possible, and there's still a few more things that need to be added in at the time of recording this video. Venrus is finishing off all the uploads, so there's some stuff that's going to be a surprise for you by the end of the release cycle. Now, there are some new units, so these are all tied to a specific bloodline. You can see them on screen right now. Like the Spellbreakers are going to be good against anti-magic, which is kind of expected. They've also got Scythes too, which makes them look a little bit better. They're specific to the Necroc. I really like that idea. Plus, you know, Scythes were a big thing back in the day. You know, they weren't like their own proper item, but yeah. You do have the Border Mercenaries for the Lamian bloodline, so it gives you a skirmishing fighter with some firepower. So you're going to be able to kind of just harass a little bit more. If you're wondering why the Sylvanian handgunners were gone, well, it's to replace it with the Sylvanian crossbowmen who now shoot a lot harder. They've got more entities on their anti-large. There's the Scarlet Knights for the Blood Dragons, so you've got a few more vampire count units there. Pretty big units, actually. I think it's around 40. And the last one is a Feral Strigoi unit, which, again, you know, for the specific bloodline. But this allows you to have a nice group of 12. It's actually kind of using them like Gorges. They've got access to regeneration. They're going to be doing a lot of damage, but they're very glass cannony, so keep that in mind. I'm a big fan of this. I love Strigoi. It's my favorite bloodline. So I look at them and I'm like, oh yeah, this is super, super cool. And then obviously you've got all the different units that were added in prior. So you've got a few units to play around with. And obviously now we do have the Halberd version that was released for free by Creative Assembly, which gives us some anti-large there too. We've got quite a lot to play around with. Now, the piece de resistance, before anything, is a little bit of a thing for Vlad, actually, more than anything else. He can turn into a big bat. Yeah, transformation mechanic. You know, the transformation mechanic that was introduced for the Cathayan Dragons, well, it's got a lot of uses when it comes to mods. It's really nice to see modders take advantage of that and go, hey, let's bring in something like that. So if you want Vlad moving around and just causing a lot of problems. It looks like he can still cast, by the way. But the main reason that you want him as a bat is obviously to kind of mobilize him a little bit. He is a very strong character, obviously. You know, he is Vlad von Carstein. So if you can get him to the enemy a lot faster, this is the answer to not having a mount option, pretty much. But yeah, this is going to be the Vampire Counts update for SFO Grimhammer, releasing on the 24th of January. So it's not too long now. Remember that Venrus will usually do his usual showcase stream on the Friday before he launches the mod. So make sure to say thank you to Venrus. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this update. And yeah, have a great day, guys. I'll see you all again very, very soon.